when we're making movements, we're obviously using muscles, but we're not using them on an individual level. And there are, within the body, chains of muscles. And two of the most important ones are the deep front lines and the spiral lines. The deep front lines start at your temples, run down your body, down your legs, and they form the adductor muscles inside the thigh, all the way down, and then cover your feet. So that's a very important muscle chain, because it's connecting you all the way from the floor, your connection to the ground, to your head. The other one is the spiral lines. So the left spiral line starts at your neck, goes around your back, under your right armpit, across your body, and down. And opposite side, across, body, down. So these are important. The way we describe it here in the dojo is your body is like a bow. In its normal condition, there's no energy in a bow. It's just relaxed and in its normal state. But when you pull the drawstring back, you curve the bow. And the bow doesn't want to be curved, it wants to release back to its natural state. So what we're trying to do is do the same with the body. So the deep front line, if you imagine somebody's got you by the hair and you're just lifting your head up. It's not a big forced movement, but just lifting you by the hair. And then if you think of your pelvis just dropping, imagine it, your spine is just being pulled. So that is like putting tension in the bow. Now with a bow and arrow, when you release the bow and release the energy, the arrow flies. What we're trying to do is create this energy within the body, but it's the arm or the leg that flies. I mentioned the adductors. They form part of the deep front line. They're essential in making your hips rotate. We consciously use those to make movement. So if we're trying to achieve a Gyaku movement, we contract the front adductor muscle, try and pull it into the groin. The rear one, we push down to the knee. So that isn't me just turning my hips. That's a contraction of this leg and an expansion of that leg. And that drives the hips. When you combine that with Tenshi, heaven and earth, the head up and the tailbone down, you're now connected from the floor to the top of your head and engaged via the adductors. If you want a front punch, a jump punch, you reverse that push-pull. Contract this side, expand that side, and the body goes out. So these are now not random movements. These are control movements using muscle chains within the body. The spiral lines are used in conjunction with a technique called Tai-no Shinjuku, which means expansion and contraction of the body. And again, have a look at the glossary section for more detail. But essentially, you've got big muscles in the front of the chest, big muscles in the back. So if you're performing Gohan-uke, you can either just do it with your arm, or you can use your body to expand and contract. So you're now using much more muscle mass and much more muscle chains, and they're acting like the bow. When you compress in, your body doesn't want to be in that position. It wants to return to its normal position. So we're creating this free energy within the body, this elastic energy, which gives you snap within the technique. And there is an elastic limit. That's about the elastic limit. Now you can go past, but you're forcing mechanically. So part of the learning process is to find that elastic limit. One way, the other way. One way, the other way. So you're getting this constant expansion and contraction of the body. These muscle fibres creating energy, releasing energy. And that's something only you can do. It's your body, it's unique, it's one of a kind. So you need to find your natural elastic limits. But they are crucial for speed, and certainly when you start getting older and you haven't got that youthful muscular strength, you need to find these to be able to maintain a standard. So Tai-no Shinshuku is essential in all your techniques. Activating muscle chains is really important. And when you find you do, you'll find that your speed and your power will improve substantially. You're not relying on old school sort of mass and weight and big heavy technique. You can generate power in very small movements. So other terms that again, use the glossary. It's a fantastic resource on the website. Ryūsui. Ryūsui is to flow, to be like water. You're not making big static movements, you're moving smoothly. But as you're moving smoothly, you are still with this connected state. I've still got this tenshi, heaven and earth. The spine is still engaged, but I'm trying to move smoothly but maintain this engagement. So this is where it gets tricky, is having a certain amount of tension within the body, of muscle chains, but to be able to keep the rest of the body relaxed. And this ties into this idea of Datsu-ryoku and Batsu-ryoku. One of the interpretations of Datsu-ryoku is lifelessness. So there's no tension in anything. But as you know, if you've ever seen anybody pass out or faint, they become so lifeless they collapse on the floor because there's no muscular structure. So what you're trying to achieve is the feeling of lifelessness and relaxation, but complementing it with Batsu-ryoku. And Batsu-ryoku is the selective turning on and off of muscle chains. You turn them on when you need them, you turn them off when you're finished. You're not constantly moving under this state of tension. Some of the Okinawan systems, Goju-ryu and styles like that, they move under permanent tension. But for Wado, it's a very different thing. You need to be able to switch muscle chains and tension on and off as and when you need it. So Datsu-ryoku, Batsu-ryoku, two sides of a coin. You need the relaxation in your arms so your arms can move quickly, but you've got the tension within the body to drive the technique forward. This bow staff to create energy, but the shoulders and the arms are relaxed, so you're not tense all the way through. So complicated techniques, not simple things, and it takes a long time, and it probably takes getting old, to be fair, to let go. You know, when you're 25 and you're all this sort of stuff means nothing. When you're 65, then you think, yeah, if I'm going to continue doing this, I've got to explore this. So, you know, if you're 25 and you look into the future, start exploring Datsu-ryoku, Batsu-ryoku techniques like this. Another technique, and again refers to the glossary, Hado. It's like to flow, to let techniques flow through. And we're saying that the deep front line connects your feet to your head. So if you're making a technique, it's coming up from the floor through the body and eventually leaving the arm. So it's not staccato movements. It's got to flow as a whole through the body. Let the technique flow out. So if you find sticky points in the movement, if you feel like your hip joints is snagging a bit, or your knees, there's something going wrong, you need to let the whole thing as one flow. So again, that's something, and if you can video yourself, you'll probably see the sticky points. So something you can work on, and it's a lifelong progress. Shizumu. Shizumu is dropping. It's a classic sort of technique to drop. Gravity and drop. Sensei Schmidt's, his karate was very much dropping, using that free energy you get from gravity. Where you can take it, and it's something we practice here, is raising and lowering the centre. You can lift your centre up, and I'll exaggerate it, lift the centre up and then let it drop. Imagine dropping a basketball into a hoop. So the centre can come up and then drop. And I'm certainly not there, is where you want to go eventually is make that movement the size of a pea internally. So it's very tiny movements, and you watch these old masters in their 80s and 90s and they appear to be doing nothing, but it's all happening inside. So depending on, if you're making a big drop mechanically or internally, you're raising and lowering your centre. It's Shizumu. It's dropping that centre to grab free energy from gravity. And Damomi, in the kata series, we talked about Machimi, which is the Okinawan version. And it's this sort of heaviness. We mentioned, if somebody's passed out and they've collapsed on the floor, you try to move them, and even if they're not a big person, they feel immensely heavy. It's referred to as a dead weight. So a momi is what you're trying to do. The more you physically tense up, the lighter you become, because you're holding yourself up. But if you can get this relaxed heaviness, this drop in, this sink in the centre, you get this immense power from seemingly nothing. So that's a momi or mashimi. So these are concepts that you need to sort of look at and think about and work on, and then try and add them into your Kihon, kata, partner work. The stages beginners go through, because they're untrained, and then you where is physical power. Where you're eventually trying to go is this Hado. You're moving from the centre. Ryū, you flow through, and then the technique releases. So there's no tension except when you want it. You flow through, gone. And that's the progress you're trying to make with all your techniques. Kihon, take that into kata, take that into partner work, take that into your kumite. So a lot going on. Sooner you can research it, try it out, and try and incorporate it into your training, the better. So what we'll look at in this video is, although it's Kihon Fundamentals, it doesn't mean basic. We'll look at some quite advanced principles that if you're yellow belt, orange belt, green belt, probably it's not something you need to be worrying about at the moment, but as you're progressing up, certainly getting towards first dan and past first dan, these are going to become more and more important. So if they're on your radar now, it's going to be no great surprise when you actually need them. If you're suddenly coming to training one day and your sensei says, right, today you need to worry about Shizumu, and it's like, so just let it wash over you at the moment. Use the website, use the resources, think about it. But this is for students who are sort of pushing through the experience levels and pushing through the grades that might find useful.